Welcome, everyone, to Midday Magazine for this October 25th, 2023. I have your host, James J. Maloff, here at 3:30. We're going to welcome in our friends from the ODC, catch up with them. A lot to talk about with them, and a lot to talk about with our current guest. We have Lance Pliml in with us, our friend, Wood County Board Chairman, along with our good friends over at Wisconsin Rapids Community Media. I want to say a good afternoon to them, thank them for being here, and encourage you to go to YouTube, type in your search bar, Wisconsin Rapids Community Media, like and subscribe to that page, keep up to date on all the great work that they are doing over there. Lance, how you been?
I'm good, James. How are you doing?
Doing good. It's good to see you, man.
It's good to be here. It'd be nice if it, we had no rain all summer.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But, it looks like it hasn't been daylight now for 2 days.
No, I don't think we've had daylight for days.
A little bit depressing out there, but...
to be fair, the sun needed a break. Sun's on vacation. Sun's on vacation.
We'll go with that.
We'll just go with that. We'll roll with that. I got a couple things I wanted to talk with you about today, Lance. I wanted to start off with a news release we just got about our from our Parks and Forestry Department, talking about the campgrounds being closed and reminding everybody about that. And certainly a kind of wrap up of the summer season, which kind of got me thinking about, for you guys on the board, what that means for all of you, and if there is some, changes as the season comes about, and how the summer was for our community.
Well, the summer was really good. This started a couple of years ago when you had some of the lockdowns with COVID. A lot of people turned to camping. And a lot of the revenue we derive in our parks departments come from those campgrounds and use of those parks. So we've had some really outstanding years. We'd love to keep the campgrounds open even longer, but there's things like water that freezes.
Yeah, that whole chest, that little chestnut.
And some of those things. But it's been great. In the mix of both in-county and out-of-county campers, for instance, and people using our parks is pretty interesting as well. It's pretty close to a 50-50 split. But one of the things that really always impresses me with the parks is it's one of the few programs that we have in Wood County that, regardless of whether it be income or qualification, that everybody can use. Yeah. And we've got one of the best park systems in the state of Wisconsin here in Wood County. We've also got 38,000 acres of county forest land that you can use for other activities. So parks are great. So as camping winds down and, the boat launches, they're not closed, but as the docks come out and get harder to use, prior to ice fishing, there's other opportunities out there. Powers Bluff will start to ramp up with our winter sports facility. We've got the mountain bike trails out there now, which we assume is going to have tremendous amount of use. So we just transition from one season to the next and hope the public goes out and uses those. Because our Parks Department is on the tax levy for some dollars. But at the end of the day, the more revenue we garner through camping and some of the user fees at boat launches and trail fees certainly offset that levy. So the goal always is 100% occupancy in the campgrounds. We're not quite there yet, but we're working on it.
Getting there. We have 2 shelters available to rent during the winter months, too. Keep that in mind. In the ATV intensive use area and NEPCO Lake County Park shelter buildings are both available to rent throughout the year. Visit our Parks and Rec department to find out more information. You can always give them a call, 715-421-8422, 421-8422, and visit them at co.wood.wi.us. If you type into your search bar, Wood County, it'll pop up.
Yeah, I say, how do you Google that?
Go right ahead and throw it in the search bar. That's what I do. It's a quick way of doing that.
And as a quick thing, it hasn't started yet, but we're in the process of. There's another building that's going to be going up out at Lake Wazeecha, South Park, that will be a 4-season opportunity for rentals out there. And that's one of the things we found over time is having park shelters is great. Yeah. Obviously, those enclosed shelters that have heat and air are more expensive to build, but the usage is obviously increased. Almost exponentially because of the times and the weather and everything else. So we strive to do that. And that one, I think we're out to bid on that right now. Construction will probably start this summer, and then by the next year, we'll be up and going. It was originally designed and is designed primarily as a safe shelter in case of storm. But it's going to have the capability to be used for all of those other activities as well.
Nice. I'm looking forward to hearing more about that. That's because I had not heard about that.
Me too, because I was asking a whole bunch of questions about it yesterday. This was a process where there was dollars available, grant dollars, to create these safe shelters, and we went through that application process. There's a dollar match on that. But when we looked at some of the problems we've had with storms and some of those other incidents that have occurred out at the park, especially we always joke about it, but always tends to be during the water ski tournament when you have thousands of people in town, and they needed the space. So we're going to be able to book events out there with the one caveat being if there's a giant storm coming through, your event might get disrupted because it's a shelter. But those don't happen. Those don't happen often, but they do happen occasionally.
Yeah, thankfully. Again, speaking with Lance Pliml, Wood County Board Chairman, Lance, it was a week ago that we got the breaking news here on the station that our current mayor Sharon Blazer was not going to be seeking a third term. In the week since, I've talked to a lot of our community. I maybe more than I ever have on a subject. Just reaching out to people I know, people I don't know, just everyday citizens, to people in positions like yourself, and just kind of. I wanted to hear from people, not on the record. I want to hear people off the record. I want to hear how they really feel and what was going on two factors. One, how they felt about Mayor Blazer, and two, how they feel going forward. And as far as the mayor went, I swear by this. I put my name by this. I didn't have one person say a bad thing about Mayor Blazer.
Well, let's not start now.
Yeah, right. I mean, especially the guy's on his way out. No. So I'm going to start. No. I thought that was noteworthy, and I thought that was pretty cool. And you don't have that happen with a politician very often. I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And a big shout out to him. And we'll have time to, sing his praises and talk about the work that he did. As we get a little bit closer to his reign ending, if you will. But what I was really interested in, and this is just between the three of us, okay?
Sure.
No, I'm kidding.
And everybody else out there listening or watching.
No, in all seriousness, I'm going to be very genuine, very vulnerable with all of you right now. I am concerned. About where we go, what's going to happen next. I have not heard any names of any candidates. I haven't heard anybody even say that they want to throw their hat in the ring or anything like that. And that's just it. I haven't heard anybody talking about this. Now, usually this kind of thing happens, and about a day or two later, almost before the body's even cold, you got people saying, I'm going to try this, or I want to throw my hat in the ring, or whatever. But we're seeing, and you realize this better than most of us, Lance, being on a board, we're having less and less community members want to take positions in public works, in public office. And with that concern, you have less talent out there to choose from, if you will, for lack of a better way to put it. So then you have people, you have a misunderstanding, I think, of the job for some people. You have some people that want to do the job to get their 15 seconds of fame, or just because they like a little bit of power or whatever. And then you have some people, hopefully genuinely out there, that actually care about this position. But one of the concerns I heard from people was just that. Who's next? We've had a pretty great run here in this area when it comes to our mayors and comes to people in these positions. So I'm curious from your perspective, not just with the next mayor and who's going to run for this position, but when it comes to board members and these things. For you, behind the scenes, from you and your colleagues, is this as much of a concern as it is with some of the citizens of how we're going to have people running for office and running for these positions?
That's a lot of questions. First of all, Mayor Blazer.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can.
The mayor called me about.
Anytime you want to give me an outline, you could choose the questions.
The mayor called me several days before the announcement, informed me that this was going to be his intention, and Mayor Blazer's been a great mayor to work with. He's a good human being, and I would also find it probably difficult to find somebody who would say something bad about him. He's been a joy to work with. We've had a cooperative relationship, and as the county, kind of overarching throughout the entire geographic area. I mean, obviously we deal with Marshfield, Rapids, and all of the other communities, towns, villages, cities. But he's been an extremely cooperative partner in all the endeavors, and I think it works both ways, city to county, county to city. So I was really sorry to see him make the announcement, and I expressed that to him. Mm-hmm. And I was also concerned, one of the questions I asked was, is there somebody in waiting? Is there a leadership vacuum? Where do we go next? And the hope always is that somebody will step up, and that was one of your questions or one of your concerns. I think that comes down to when you live in when you are in the public eye, sometimes the criticism is unbelievable, and the criticism often comes without anybody doing the research. I had some conversations right now. We have I'm going to digress a little bit. We have a resolution coming forth before the county board that deals with some of the issues the health department dealt with during COVID and what some people saw around the state as an overreach, but never happened here. And I made the comment in a meeting the other day, said, for years, it hurts you internally. You don't verbalize it usually, but there was press that said, Wood County's desecrating graves up at Powers Bluff, and I would go to places and they'd go, Lance or Mr. Pliml, you need to stop desecrating and digging up Native American graves. Well, the State Historical Society and the Native American groups as a whole said that's never even occurred once, let alone you need to stop. So, oftentimes we get those phone calls, you get those criticisms, and people have never even delved into the issue. So it's hard to get people to step up. You can stay at home and you don't get those, javelins tossed at you all day long and do your own thing, or you can step up into leadership and be willing to deal with that. And, Mayor Blazer is one of those who's been, he's out there, at the forefront, in front of the public all the time. In the conversation with him, he said, maybe that's a little bit what takes a toll on you when you're that accessible. You're there every day. I've had a number of people call me on a recent issue coming up, the one I was just talking about, or email me, and if they leave me a phone number or a way to contact, I call every one of them. And usually the answer I get is, "You're calling me? Yeah, I want your input. I want to know why it is you have the take you have on this particular issue. What is it that I might be missing, or what can I add to the conversation, or what can we do better?" And our mayor was like that. So I was kidding Mayor Blazer, I was teasing Shane the other day as a friend, and I said, now I got to train a new mayor. When you've been around for a long time, you really don't train mayors, but you do develop working relationships. We have a newer mayor in Marshfield. Anytime you have somebody that's new to the job, unless they come from within, if they were a deputy mayor or something, it's a huge learning curve. Yeah. And that's probably part of the fear. And I can tell this to the public. There ain't anybody out there at the local level that's getting rich serving in county government. Right. So your point is, somebody might have a power trip or something else or a single issue they want to deal with, but nobody's doing it for the money.
Yeah.
So, that's another consideration in today's world. It's tougher to make ends meet. We live in a society today where typically both members of the couple, work just to get by. And you go, after I do those things with my family and my those other responsibilities, I don't have a lot of extra time. And there's a time commitment. So anyway, Mayor Blazer, Shane, we're going to be sorry to see you go. I know we've got several months yet. We'll see what we can get accomplished. But it's been, from a county's perspective, it's been a real pleasure working with you and the council.
Are there, break these down in single questions, are there a concern with you and your colleagues of getting more people to run for office or run on or be on a part of boards?
Yeah, I think the general answer is, yes. And I don't know that it's just in politics. I mean, it's all those things that have supported communities over the years. It's, those charitable organizations, fraternal organizations that contribute a tremendous amount. I even see, I'm probably the worst example, but, I see attendance even at church services where money comes into those organizations which also support other charitable things. And I see attendance, in those opportunities, in those places dropping. So, we need a public that's just more involved everywhere. Throughout the community. I was laughing. You heard me. I just walked out of here. Terry Johns just walked out of here with the United Way. Couldn't have a better program. I was kidding you because I said, you guys are having too much fun in here. I could hear the laughter out in the hall. But, look what they do. That's not a government program. That's people reaching out, digging deep into their pockets to help run those programs that they find important in a community. So it's not just political or government boards. It's United Way volunteers, Boys and Girls Club, all of the shelters that we run in town, all the food pantries, all of those things. You need community involvement.
How do we get people more involved?
If I had that answer, we'd have it, we'd already accomplished it. I really think it starts in educating people, really young. I'm talking even pre-high school. If we can get those people involved in those various activities that they enjoy, first of all, find something you like to do. And then do it. I don't know anybody, I don't do it a lot, but I have gone and worked at some of the community table events and some of those other ones. Sometimes you feel like you're dragging yourself to an event like that, or Habitat for Humanity or one of those things. But when you get there and you're done, there's a real sense of accomplishment. There's a real sense of I helped somebody, I did something in the community, and somebody wasn't reaching in my pocket to take it. I did it out of the goodness of my heart. I did it because I wanted to. So I guess I would start with, early education, letting those people, those young individuals know in school what opportunities are out there.
It's I don't know if it's well known or not, but many of the early conversations we had with Mayor Blazer were centered around him not really choosing to do this. He kind of was asked to do this and decided to throw his hat into the ring, and here we are 4 or 5 years later with him doing the job. But it's part of the reason I bring this up. when we're looking for people to be the next mayor or be the next board member, they may not even realize that they are the next board member or the next mayor. There's people out there listening that may have never been into politics or never thought about doing this kind of thing. So for those people out there, what are we looking for out of our public officials in your opinion, Matt?
Well, generally, it boils down to some extent to leadership, but it's really an openness to listen. That old adage, you have 2 ears, 1 mouth.
Yep.
Close your mouth, listen a little bit more. And the ability to realize that you're not always right, that there's other opinions out there. Often the best decision comes from those people in the public. You got to, don't bury your head in the sand. Listen. Yeah. Be somebody who can adapt to change. Have courage. I made a speech the other day, and I said, the ability to go along to get along is not always the courageous answer, and courage is tough. And one of the things, and sometimes it's criticism that gets leveled at, mayors or board members, council members, is, you made a decision, and I wanted to do it this way, and often I say, you don't have all the information. If you had all the information I had, you probably would have made a decision. And usually after I explain it, they go, you're right, but the information, we probably don't do a good enough job disseminating it, but people don't do a good enough job looking for it.
Yeah.
I talk to some of, I'll use my own kids as an example, and they're not kids anymore, they're in their 30s. They're trying to get by, they're trying to buy a house, they're trying to do those kind of things. And I'll say, did you hear on the news, or did you read, or did you see? And they go, we don't have time to do that. Well, if you don't make time to do that, then you're not going to make very good decisions. So, what we're looking for generally are people that will commit, take the time. If you're a county board supervisor, I don't know, you probably get at least 200 to 300 pages of material to read every month to be prepared. I don't have anybody like that at this time, but there's been boards I've sat on in the past where people are opening up that packet to look at that stuff while the meeting's starting. Well, if you didn't start looking at it 3, 4, 5 days ahead of time and studying, you don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
So, somebody who's willing to be prepared, willing to commit the time, willing to listen, and willing to be part of a team. And a lot of it comes down to compromise, to collaboration, because as you're seeing right now in the House of Representatives, congressional level, you kind of have to have a plan, kind of have to know where you're going. But more importantly, sometimes you have to compromise a little bit, or you get nothing done. It's nice to say, I want it my way, but if you don't get it your way, nothing gets done. So oftentimes we throw away a good solution in search of a perfect one, and I'm one who let's do the good one and work on the perfect.
Yeah, and to piggyback off that latter part that you mentioned there, I would think that a big part of public service is realizing it's not about you. It's about your constituents. It's about the community. I mean, your opinion is nice, but it's not necessarily actually really matters that much when it comes to this. You have a job to do, and you're representing a whole wide variety of opinions and thoughts and feelings.
Yeah, you're right. And the interesting part about that is if I'm conversing with somebody, whether it be in person or through email or text, their issue that day is the most important issue. I get that. Yeah. And if it becomes somewhat of a community issue, then it's something that we have to drive. But the understanding that that's the most important thing to them. However, when you balance the need of the community, sometimes you have to, step a little bit back, take a look at it, and go, how does it benefit everybody? And, we deal with that with some of the consortiums that we're part of, some of those regional cooperations where, you may see, and it can be in the county alone, you may see a slightly diminished service exactly where you live. Where I live, Grand Rapids, Wisconsin, or something. But there's a huge increase in the service in Pittsville and Marshfield and and Sherry and Vesper and Rudolph and everywhere in between. So you have to balance the immediacy of the need. You have to balance probably the geographic location where that is with, I'll call it the common good of the whole county. That can be difficult.
Well, and I think we're every one of us, especially here in Central Wisconsin, specifically in Rapids, in Nakusa, I think we're faced with that every day. The trains. I mean, we put up with the trains. We understand why we put up with the trains. It's commerce. It's the economy. It helps our economy out and everything. There is not one person in Rapids or in this area that has not been frustrated by a train at some point in their life. But you put up with it because that's dollar signs passing through right there. So to your point, I think that we are adults about this have to learn to be better adults about it, I think, in some ways.
Yeah, I've been a big proponent of an overpass or an underpass there, and a lot of it is for emergency vehicle access.
Absolutely.
We have a fairly large community without a way to get around that when those trains block those intersections. And I actually was on the phone, it was probably a year or two ago, just made a quick call to the Sheriff's Department. I had a question. And I know we don't have a lot of regulatory authority with the railroads. I met, previously with Congressman Kind when he was in Congress. Had conversations with Congressman Van Orden. But all that said, there's still a need. I mean, when you have to get from one side of the town to the other side of town with an emergency vehicle, and you don't have a way to get around the railroad because they've been blocking the intersection for 20 minutes, which, by the way, isn't legal, but it happens.
It happens.
And there's nobody to call.
They just pay a fine.
Yeah, there's nobody to call.
Yeah.
That's one of those things. You're right.
Do you think it's just a matter of time before that overpass happens? Because we've been talking about that a long time.
Yeah, my concern is I'll be dead before that ever happens.
I'm with you.
I didn't have gray hair, and I was a lot younger. I'm not sure I had kids when we started that conversation. I think at some point it has to happen. And when you look at all the federal money out there, some of the, it's termed the Build Back Better dollars and some of those other things, I would think there would be opportunity when they look at a community this size and the number of emergency vehicles that we have and can bring to bear in an emergency, that's kind of important. So I would hope someday we see something like that.
Hopefully it doesn't take a horrible situation to make us realize that I think we've skated by pretty well on this subject for a long time. And that's not to make light of anybody who has been affected by it, but it hasn't been a situation where it's in the public's eye and in their thoughts all the time. So I think that it's something that's very similar to the jail that's bound to happen one of these days. We're just kicking the can right now.
Yeah, and when you look at, some of the duplication of service we have, and not picking on anybody, but one that probably is pretty high profile comes to mind when you look at a fire department. Why do we have fire stations on both sides of the tracks? And I'm not saying that in and of itself might not be a good idea. It's because if you have an emergency response and you got a train blocking it, you better be able to get there.
Right.
And we have that same situation with a number of the services we provide. So, would I like to see that? Yes. It's probably a city project. Or a federal project. I don't know that we have a lot of say in it as a county. Although Wisconsin's really interesting. In Wisconsin, there's no state highway department.
I find that very interesting.
The counties do all the maintenance on that. We don't build them, but we maintain them. We plow the snow and we do all that work. So I'm not exactly sure who's responsible for, or if there's a number of us all together who are responsible.
Yeah.
But it would certainly be nice to see that done.
Lance, as we're wrapping up here, I wanted to mention that the meetings that are going on and that people can take in these meetings with our Wood County Board, you can find them actually at our friends over at Wisconsin Rapids Community Media's website. You guys do a great job recording those, and I'm able to do a lot of my homework for these interviews with those, and also check out what's going on in our community. I believe you got one coming up here in just a little bit. It looks like the North Central Wisconsin Regional Planning Commission. Are you a part of that?
I do attend those virtually usually.
Okay.
That when we talk about that, you can be an elected official, but there's a lot of boards that I can appoint people to that our cities do, I'm sure, as well, where it's tremendous public service. And it's not something where you need to be an elected official often to serve. And they're very important in that respect, that you actually do that. Your point on packets, I had a lady the other day, very, very nice lady, very concerned on an issue, and we were talking about a particular issue, resolution the county's going to deal with. And she was talking about something. I said, well, have you actually seen the resolution? And she'd written me a very nice letter in favor of. But I said, have you read it? And she said, no. And I said, it is available. And then the question was, and leads right to what you asked, where do I find that? Well, Google, if you don't remember the website, Wood County, Wisconsin. You can go to the website, and we list every meeting, every agenda, and every packet. So you're seeing exactly the same thing every county board supervisor is seeing when they walk into that meeting. And so if you do have an interest, the best way to be prepared is to go to the website, read the material.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. It's as Lance was saying that, I clicked on what he was talking about. It pops right up for me. It's right there. It's very easy to keep up to date on these things. And as we are looking at an open position in our mayorship and other things going forward here, and getting into a bigger political season in 2024. We can lead you to water, but we can't make you drink. You got to do the homework, everybody. You've got to do the details. If you really care about your area, you got to put in the work. You got to do some homework. This is no different than most things in life. You can't read headlines. You can't just look at hear what Fred, your neighbor, said. Do your own homework and research these things, especially when in an area like ours where the information is so easy to access.
And if you're going to run for mayor, for instance, and that's an important position in our area, you probably should know what the mayor does.
Yeah.
What the scope of that
Seems
job
like
is.
a good idea.
It doesn't mean you've been a mayor before. But also, you alluded to it before. Typically, I get calls going, what do you think? Should I? Shouldn't I? I've had nobody call me in regard to a run for that position. So it'll be interesting as they go
Very.
forward and to see who throws their hat in the ring.
I'm sure we'll be talking about it again real soon, and we'll talk next month, Lance. Thanks a lot for the time.
Thanks, James. Always appreciate it.
And a big thank you to our friends over at Wisconsin Rapids Community Media. Appreciate the gang over there. Get to YouTube, subscribe to their page. We'll be back with more Midday Magazine right here on WFHR, locally grown radio.